Good morning, gang. Happy Tuesday morning. All right, the rain has stopped. The sun's supposed to be out, and hopefully it's a good day. When I finish this, I got cabbages to go pick, maybe some beets as well. It's funny because if you just listen to the U.S. media, you have no idea what we are getting involved in, what we are doing as a country. Because, like I said in yesterday's video, we're all too concerned about LGBTQ rights and school board meetings and all this sort of crap that's going on. Joe yesterday with his speech on the White House lawn about, the bravest people he's ever known are the LGBTQ community. As a veteran, thanks a lot. You got fake women running around topless, bouncing their boobs all over the place on the White House lawn. Basically, we're a laughing stock around the world, right? But let's talk about some of the stuff that is very important, but the White House and the complacent media decide to keep us totally in the dark with. Everybody knows what's going on with China and Taiwan, right? That China claims Taiwan's part of China, and they don't want them to have their independence, i.e. Hong Kong, and that China could invade at any time, right? We don't hear anything about this. The media has gone total radio silence on pretty much anything that has been China for the better part of 6 months. And it doesn't mean that everything's hunky-dory over there. Couple of things might want to raise your radar here. Do you know how many U.S. citizens are in Taiwan? I told you the other day, we've got about 200 military personnel, and that is pissing off China. We have over 80,000 American citizens in Taiwan. Remember Kabul? Remember Saigon? Getting American citizens out of Taiwan is going to be somewhat of a problem. 80,000 plus of them, should anything happen. I highly doubt that China is going to say, call up the White House and go, hey, Joe, we're going to invade next week. You want to get your people out of there so we don't have any problems? Right? So, of all people to lead any sort of evacuation, we've got Joe's administration. Yippee. Well, apparently, they are ramping up plans in the White House, in the Pentagon, for evacuating personnel. It's the first I've ever heard of it. Chances are it's the first you guys have ever heard of it. Okay. Even the Pentagon is trying to stay a little quiet about this. Okay. Even the State Department is trying to stay quiet about this. All right. Pentagon spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Martin Miners, won't answer anybody correctly about what's going on, and says, we don't see a conflict in the Taiwan Strait as imminent or inevitable. Yet the State Department and the Pentagon have ramped up their plans to figure out how to get these people out. Here's the problem, okay? Both Taiwanese airports are on the coast that is on the China side of the island. If you figure any sort of attack on Taiwan is certainly going to be naval, that is going to cause a problem because you're going to be flying fighter jets and passenger jets in the same airspace in a combat zone, if that's what they tried. That wouldn't work too well, okay? So this is where you take the next step. Yesterday, it was announced that the United States, Japan, and Taiwan are going to fly drones over the South China Sea to share real-time data from these Navy reconnaissance drones to track any of the Chinese military movement of their Navy, of any of their ships, of any of their submarines, whatever. if you start putting things together, and I know you get bits and pieces and stories, but you gotta read everything. How are we going to get these people out? By ship? Great. Where are you going to take them? It's an awful long boat ride from Taiwan to Hawaii. It's a long boat ride from even like Taiwan to Guam, right? To get to U.S. territory. Not exactly, when submarines, naval destroyers, aircraft carriers, and aircraft are out flying all over the place trying to shoot out anything that is potentially an enemy. There could be a mistake happen. Even you paint a big red cross on the side of a rescue ship, those have been known to get hit too by errant gunfire or an errant torpedo. Stuff is ramping up in China. We're not being told about this. Imagine what happens if we have 80,000 plus people in Taiwan and an American gets killed in a combat zone with a ally, Taiwan, versus an enemy, China. How fast are we in World War III? I mean, I don't. You can say Russia, Ukraine is not World War III. I'm sorry, but the United States, China would be World War III. It's simple as that. How effective is China? Oh, we're going to do strategic, surgical bombings. We won't kill any Americans. Anybody ever bought anything from Walmart? Made in China. How good is it? It's crap. Guess what? Their military stuff, probably not a whole lot higher quality. Okay? Think of that apartment complex we saw last year that we built this apartment building in 4 weeks and, blah, blah, blah. And in a year, the whole thing collapsed. It's just a bunch of people who live in apartments that died from it. No problem. This is what we have to pay attention to, guys. All the stuff that's not being told to us in the news. Why are we making plans to evacuate? Or not, I don't say we're always making plans. We should be at least always having a plan to evacuate people that are in harm's way. But why all of a sudden are we ramping these things up? What do they know? Sure, they're going to say, an attack on Taiwan isn't imminent. Okay, maybe a fourth grader might believe that, but by fifth grade, they figure out, you know what? Hey, China's going into Taiwan. Now, Jeff Foxworthy did a show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And Joe Biden would have to say no. Pay attention to this, because if anything goes off with China-Taiwan, all bets are off in the United States as to what happens. Because think about this for a second. Even if there are no Chinese troops on U.S. soil, that we're not getting shot at, whatever, that the military has plenty of food or plenty of ammunition or whatever to supply the military. It's not a World War II scenario where we have restrictions on the amount of rubber we can buy or aluminum cans or food, or all those things that we've talked about many times before in ration cards, that there's nothing like that. Think about what happens if we wind up in any sort of conflict, because God knows Congress doesn't declare wars anymore, they just do stuff. Okay, I mean, we haven't had a war declared since Korea, yet, we happen to have gone into a lot of places militarily. But imagine we have any sort of conflict with China. How much production is done in the United States anymore? Not a whole lot. Okay. Look in your house. I've said this many times. Go through all the stuff in your house, your furniture, your lamps, some of your food, your refrigerator, whatever, and you'll see made in China, made in China, made in China, made in China. Do you honestly think China's going to go, yeah, you know what, we're in a war that the United States is on the other side with, or we're in a war directly with the United States, but we'll just keep sending them stuff? That's something to prep for. You may not have Chinese troops walking down your street. But one thing you certainly won't have is Chinese products in your store. And last time I checked, there ain't a whole lot of other places we get stuff from. That's what you need to pay attention to. Plan accordingly.